After the longest and most controversial trial in Jamaica's entire history, dancehall legend Vybz Kartel has now officially become a free man. But after spending 13 years behind bars and so many people believing that he would never make it out, how did Adidja Palmer beat the odds? To answer these questions, we have to take it back to 2011. When Vybz Kartel was arrested for the murder of Clive Lizard Williams. The case was highly controversial from the start due to the fact that Lizard's body was never found. And after 3 years of trial and even more controversy, in 2014, due to certain voice notes, phone records, and even video footage that was found on his BlackBerry torch, the jury had initially deemed this as sufficient evidence and sentenced Vybz Kartel and his co-defendants to life in prison. Over the next decade, his fans and his legal team would spend absolutely no time wasted in trying to get this man freed. And after many attempts that did not work out, in 2024, they were granted with a new ray of hope. After many years, Kartel's team was finally given the opportunity to take the case from the local levels and have it be reviewed by the Privy Council themselves. The Privy Council of the United Kingdom is the highest level of the legal system for all United Kingdom and Commonwealth countries. And so if they decide on something, that is the final decision. Once the Privy Council got a hold of the case, they carefully reviewed it and all of its factors. And on March 14, 2024, being live streamed to thousands and thousands of people, the Privy Council had officially announced that the convictions of Vybz Kartel were to be quashed. Now, of course, as happy as people were about this decision, it didn't make it any less surprising. If the Jamaican court system, who people already view as corrupt, wanted him behind bars, why would the old white people be the ones who want him free? Well, their reasoning was simple. There was a factor in the trial that ruined everything. According to the Jamaica Gleaner, one of the jurors in the case, Livingston Kane, was found guilty of offering a $500,000 bribe to the jury foreman to influence the other jurors to return a not guilty verdict in the case. However, the problem lies in the fact that even after the judge found this out, he still allowed the juror to continue as part of the jury. This is because after so much time had passed and so much money and resources had been poured into this trial, to scrap the whole thing and get a new jury at the last minute right before the verdict would have been almost an insanity. And so the judge was presented with an extreme dilemma. But the Privy Council stated that as much as they sympathize with this dilemma, they had no choice but to quash the conviction. Not necessarily to say that they personally believed he was innocent, but more that the fact that he was deemed guilty on paper was not valid because the trial was technically not fair. Therefore, with the convictions being invalid, they now left the decision with the Jamaican Court of Appeal to determine whether or not Kartel should get a retrial and do over everything to get a new conviction, or if they should just scrap the whole thing altogether and just release him. And the decision of the Court of Appeal was supposed to be released by the end of July of 2024. And unless you live under a rock, you'd know that they did not delay on their promise. On the 31st of July 2024, the Court of Appeal came to their ultimate decision, and after thousands and thousands of people had waited in suspense and anticipation, they finally announced that Vybz Kartel and his co-accused, Sean Storm, Andre St. John, and Kahira Jones, were to all be immediately freed. This news broke Jamaica in some of the biggest uproar from fans and celebrities that we've ever seen, with even Drake reacting to the situation on his Instagram story. But why did the Court of Appeal decide that Kartel and his co-accused should be freed? Well, the president of the Court of Appeal, Justice Marva McDonald Bishop, provided an explanation. She explained that there were 12 factors that were considered, and that based on these factors, a retrial would just simply not make sense. The factors that were examined included the seriousness of the offenses, the strength of the prosecution's case, the availability of witnesses for a retrial, the ordeal to be faced by the man if a new trial were ordered, changes to the Jury Act, and the possibility of prejudice based on the information in the public domain regarding the first trial. Now, despite the serious nature of the offenses themselves, McDonald Bishop pointed out that some of those factors worked very heavily against the potential ordering of a retrial, including the insufficient and inadequate account by the prosecution of the availability of its witnesses and trial exhibits, essentially saying that after so much time has passed, where them I go find them witness them there? Where them I go find all the evidence where them did use the first time? It's simply just been so much time that it doesn't make sense anymore. Additionally, the complex nature of the original trial, which lasted for 64 days and utilized significant resources to complete, was considered. The court also said that there was sufficient evidence to suggest that Kartel would not be able to complete a potentially longer sentence if there were to be a retrial, citing the fact that his medical condition was severely deteriorating and the fact that the holding cell he was in was basically a brick cell with no air circulation, no water, and a bucket for a toilet, which was only making his health worse. They said his neck was swollen. If you think of a shirt that is about 18.5 inches in the neck area, you couldn't even close the collar on his neck, and that's how bad it is in this moment. His face is actually swollen, and one other thing, he always wears glasses because this condition causes his eyes to protrude. In 2023, a sworn medical affidavit from Kartel's private doctor notified authorities that his Graves' disease and heart condition were getting worse, and that if he did not get surgery soon, it could be fatal. Because of these facts, the Court of Appeal ultimately decided to do away with the idea of a retrial and simply let Vybz Kartel free. And so, with the freedom of Adidja Palmer, it brings the free world boss era to an end. But if you want to learn how it even started and why Jamaica's favorite artist was even sentenced to life in prison to begin with, click the video on your screen right now for a full explanation of what happened in the first trial. And as always, the dancehall has been decoded.